Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1127. And tonight, I have an amazing guest for you guys tonight. This is my dear friend, Brenda Sanchez. She is in Colorado Springs, and we're going to have some fun with her tonight. Welcome, Brenda.
Thanks, Helen. I always love having conversations with you. We have so many things in common that it's always an adventure and super fantastic and sparkly when we talk.
Yes. So a little bit about Brenda before we get started. She is a retired US Air Force major, a best-selling author, and a business owner. She needs to put businesses in there because she doesn't have more. She has more than one business. She's also called the Queen of Networking by her peers in Colorado Springs. And our mutual friend Casey swears that everybody in Colorado Springs knows Brenda because wherever he would go, she was always greeted by name. Brenda has over 40 years of experience in sales and 33 years experience in training and briefing both civilian and military organizations to include senior level military leaders. Besides being an instructor, she was instrumental in developing several training programs for military, civilian contractors, local businesses, and nonprofit organizations. She has also created marketing materials for hundreds of businesses and nonprofit organizations. Brenda's passion is to mentor others on how to build and enhance their personal and professional relationships. She has been teaching local businesses the fundamentals, principles, philosophies, and strategies for successfully gaining and retaining clients and customers through referral-based marketing and effective networking for 11 years. She believes conducting business is a relationship let's try that again, a relational experience and not a transactional one. Oh, I don't know what's going on with my mouth tonight. It's just all tongue-tied and everything. And we've also got to add this on here that you were born and raised in Syracuse, New York. You've served 27 years in the Air Force in the cyber IT, active duty, and reserves. And between you and Michael, you've got 4 children, 2 son-in-laws, 2 daughter-in-laws, and 2 grandsons. You love to play poker, which is how you met Michael, your husband, and you love to travel. And fun facts, which I did not know until you sent me this, that Brenda was a photographer for Glamour Shots and Kinder Photo. So I did not know that. You just kind of threw that one in there to throw me off.
I got to give you something new.
Well, that's true. That's true. So life has thrown you a lot of different curveballs and everything.
Yes.
So, and we all go through curveballs in life. It's how we react to them that determines whether we're going to successfully overcome the obstacles or go in a completely different direction. So tell me about some of the curveballs that you've been thrown and how that's changed your perspective on being an employee versus a business owner.
So the first curveball I would say that I was thrown, Helen, was probably when I was first in the service. And my ex was also in the service and realized that being an officer and a mom and a wife didn't kind of really go well together because I really wanted to be home to raise the kids. And so I ended up separating and getting out of the service and kind of being the good wife and spouse, military spouse, and realized that I needed much more. So that's actually where my Glamour Shots and Kinder Photo came in. I had started some of that prior, but when I got out of the service, I felt like, and I'm sure there's other stay-at-home moms out there, I felt like I had to ask my then husband for expenses, like to go buy a new top or to go buy something for the kids. And I did not like that at all. So that's when I kind of started my, I was still an employee with Kinder Photo and Glamour Shots, but that's kind of when I started dabbling in some direct sales and stuff on the side just to have income of my own so that I could have some fun money or some spending money and have kind of a little bit of control over that without having to ask. And I know that probably sounds weird to somebody who maybe has had a long career. Maybe they've been an employee, or maybe they've had their own business forever. But if there's any moms out there that had a full time job and chose to leave it to raise their kids, I'm betting that they went through the same thing that I went through. So that was kind of the first curveball. That wasn't one of the biggest curveballs, though. The next curveball was when my ex asked for a divorce. And at that time, I was only working part time just to help out, again, to have some a little bit of extra money, fun money for travel in that. And when he asked for the divorce, I was like, now what do I do? And, if I had kept some of those side gigs, if I had kept one of those side gigs and wasn't just a part time employee, I would have had way more options than I did. So I dove into a job at that point that I had and worked extra hours. And that's actually when I had a break in service. That's when I actually got back into the reserves in order to create enough income to support myself and my kids. So that was a huge curveball, and started to think about having those plan Bs and plan Cs, or those multiple businesses, as you say, that I have now, because I do have multiple businesses. Um, and just really start evaluating that, and looking at things differently when opportunities came in front of me. I still wasn't 100% in a business mindset at that point, but it's what started me on that journey to think about it.
Now, when you got that first curveball thrown at you, what was interesting about something that you said is that at that time you felt about how you felt about having to ask your spouse for expenses and things like that. But when you think about the time that took place, that was just when things were starting to change in the family dynamics, social wise, society wise, is when things were starting to change in that time, and women were going out more and working more rather than staying at home. So that was at that time when things were just really starting to, just that beginning of that curve. So you were kind of on the curve or just ahead of the curve at that time.
I was. I was. And
whereas me, I would have been happy. I mean, I told Brad, always asked me what was one of my lifetime dreams. I said to be a stay-at-home mum and wife.
That actually was my dream. That's why I left the service, is because I really felt like my calling was to be a stay-at-home mom and a wife. And within 6 months, I realized that probably because I had been in the military, I had jobs since I was 12 years old. I mean, I had paper routes. I helped my mom with her Avon. It wasn't, it's not that being a wife and a mom didn't satisfy me. There was just something missing. There was, and it's hard to describe. I've talked to other women that have gone through it, and they're like, I know exactly what you mean, but it's hard to put in words, because I loved what I was doing, but there was a missing.
What is something else? Yeah.
There was something else missing.
Yeah. Somebody had hidden that jigsaw piece.
Yes, they had.
And it was driving you nuts because you couldn't find it.
Yes, I couldn't put the puzzle together.
That little corner of the puzzle, and there was that one piece missing. Yeah, I get you. I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went back into the reserves to bring in the extra income. And you realized you needed a plan B and C. So what did you do next?
So, one, I concentrated on being a single mom at first, and that's why I got into the service, because it was a stable, like I could count on the income. And I just started listening and watching for, I believe I was watching for opportunities. Mike came into my life. As you said, I met him playing poker. I say I won him in a poker game, and he says, I'm no fool. I lost on purpose. But it was his kids that introduced us. and playing poker, I kind of thought about being a dealer, and in a way you're an employee, but it was also an entrepreneur because they got tips. And so I started thinking about that, and then I met some other people that were entrepreneurs. And after Mike and I got married, we had dinner one night with a couple that introduced us to a side gig, an extra stream of income that sounded interesting to us because it had to do with relationships. And I was all about relationships. I grew up, it had a lot to do with helping businesses stay top of mind and say thank you. And I grew up in a generation where, it was common to do that. And we were getting into an age where that was kind of fallen by the wayside. And so I saw it as an opportunity. But better yet, Mike also saw an opportunity in the business. And so at the time when this came to us, I had just been passed over for promotion. So another curveball, because as you know, in the military, Helen, you only have two chances. And if you get passed over twice, you're out. They force you out. So at that point, I knew I had enough years that they had to keep me till retirement, even if I didn't get promoted the second time round. So I was confident in that I would get a retirement. It's a reserve retirement, so you have to wait for it. But I knew that to get promoted the second time was much harder than the first time. Yep. So when that opportunity landed in our laps or was offered to us, I saw that as my plan B to be able to start something and have it get to a point, or hopefully get to a point that when I retired, we could fill that gap. And that's exactly what we did. Is we took off building a business, and we've been building that business or a similar business for now almost 12 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
I just, during that process and being passed over for promotion, it makes you reflect on life. Living your best life now, as you say, before your dirt nap. And I got thinking about all of the people that, especially military spouses and military families, because I saw so many people get passed over for promotion, or they got hurt and injured when they were overseas, or when they were, in the line of fire and they were kicked out. They were given an early retirement, a disability, but it's not something you expect. And you get a lower income. And how can you live on that lower income? And Mike had already retired from one job and realized that you can't live on half pay with no benefits. So it came at a time in our life where we really started reflecting on and wanting to mentor other people to have a side gig, because I truly believe that that's what helped us when I was forced to retire. And then the beauty of having a side gig is when you get hurt or you're fired. I mean, COVID happened, people lost their jobs. Yep. Imagine if you, I'm talking to the viewers, imagine if you were in that situation and you had one or two side gigs. You now would have had something to fill in the gap and wouldn't have had to stress as much about paying your mortgage or your utility bills, your rent, things like that. And that side gig has created enough income for us that Mike was actually able to retire also, as you know, last November. And it's been recently that we reflected on it. And what we've done is not a guarantee of somebody else. We all know that, but I want to say this so that nobody's like, well, she did it, so how come I can? It took a lot of work. It's been
Yeah.
12 years, so it was not overnight success. But we have created that side gig has created more income than any one of our retirement checks on their own.
The
And
other thing I like about the side gigs too is that when you're talking military families, they move around a lot.
yes,
So the spouse that's staying at home while the other one is serving, what are they going to do? They're constantly either they're getting part-time jobs or constantly changing jobs. If they've got the side gig, most of the side gigs you've got can travel with you wherever you go. It doesn't matter where you live, you can still build them. And it's a great way to get out there and network
exactly.
when you've got the side gigs. So when you go into a new community, you find the local networking groups and go and join them, and you have a business that you can talk about while you're there for the 2-3 years or whatever it is that you're there. But I think side gigs are important, and it's something I've always looked for years.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it isn't it Eric, is it Eric Worre, or is it that a side gig or direct sales, or that is the entrepreneurial journey of the 21st century, right? Is that what,
Yeah,
am I getting
awesome.
that right?
I don't
Something
know.
like that. It is, it's
It's
becoming
paraphrased.
more, yeah, it's definitely paraphrased. It's definitely becoming more and more of the choice of people, especially given the current environment and the current state of, with health issues and that, and people, companies downsizing because they can do it with computers, and there's so many new advances that they don't need as many employees. So
And I think with when you've got the side gigs, you're also it is a way of protecting yourself as well.
yes, it
Yeah,
is
because
for
I think a
sure.
lot of companies, when the COVID thing happened, they were like, "What do we do? We can't afford to keep these people," so they were letting people go. But they were putting some people were put on furlough with no pay until things got better, and then they got hired back.
Yep.
I know there was companies that did that, but in the meantime, it's like, well, what are these people supposed to do to live on and things? And a lot of people don't save.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Isn't it 70%? It's like 70 or 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. They don't even have enough in the bank to carry them through one extra month if they lost their pay.
Yeah, there was not sure if it was Casey or somebody else that said you got to have at least 6 months of income saved in the bank in
Yep.
case you lose your job. But if
Yeah,
you've got a side gig, then you kind of don't. You kind of that gives you something else that you can look forward to. And if you do multiple side gigs, then it's even better.
exactly.
And if
And
you do them so they all kind of fit together,
yes, we've learned how to do that, haven't we,
we
Helen?
have. It's like I have my genealogy business, and I've got a forever business, which is with the photograph, saving the photographs to help tell the stories and everything else. And then I've got another couple of side gigs that all fit in with that, and just different ways that you can keep the memories alive, keep the stories alive. And that's part of living your best life now. But the other thing that side gigs have been able to help people do these days is they now use them, and you get people going and traveling around the world,
Yep.
and their side gigs are what's paying the way.
Yep. I was going to say that's the other thing is we're getting ready to go on a family vacation in September, and most families, they'd love to take a vacation. The parents would love to take the kids, their adult kids, but the finances just aren't there. And if you had a side gig, even if it wasn't creating a ton, but if it created even 3 or 4 thousand dollars a year, which isn't talking about very much a month, think
Mm-hmm.
about the trip that you could take with your family. So we're able to take family trips in that because of our side gigs. And well, now they're pretty much our primary gigs because we're retired, and our side gigs are our plan A. So I really think everybody needs a plan B, C, D, E, F that can become your plan A and enjoy life. Because the other nice thing about a side gig that we haven't talked about is that mom who wants to be home with and be the wife and the mom and play that role can be able to have a job and to fill in the gaps and to be able to create some income to take those trips, but she's able to stay home with her family. Many
Mhm.
side gigs allow the spouse to stay home and care for the kids and be at all the school events and all the football and softball and gymnastics and all the sports and everything that you desperately want to be there for.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I always said to Brad, I said, if him and I ever had any kids, I was homeschooling them. And he says, why? I says, I don't want anybody dictating when I'm taking vacation. I'm taking vacation during the off seasons where the prices are cheaper and we can get a better quality of a experience with the kids, because we're not going to be standing in lines forever and a day when
Yep.
during peak season and that sort of stuff as well. And I said, plus we'd use the trips to supplement their school lessons and things, giving them real life experiences and stuff, and doing these little tours around, getting private tours around museums as part of their history lessons or social study lessons or whatever. And he was sort of like, oh, kind of like that, but it's not going to happen. He was all set for putting them in the school system, but then he was that engineering mind, very linear thinking, and
Yep.
I'm the fly by the seat of your pants type of person. So we balanced each other very nicely, and so I was able to have these wild ideas, and he'd be the one that would like ground me a
Are
little
you
bit,
sure?
but then he would think through the logic behind it,
And then he
and
was all in because I
and then he was
know.
all yeah,
he
he would
was
definitely be all in once he
100.
thought about it.
Yeah, I was like, he was 100, actually 1,000% your supporter. And
Oh, he was,
um,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah, definitely. And to be, I mean, the look on his face half the time, I'd walk in the living room, plop down on the couch, and go, "I've had an idea," and you can see the "oh shit" look on his face.
Like, what's
He didn't
coming
know
now?
what was going to come out at that point. But then he'd quickly gather himself and says, "Do I need to respond? Do you just want to throw the idea out and hear it so you can think about it some more, or do I have to respond to it?" And I'm not sure. And then you see the look again, like, oh, now I have to pay attention. But yeah, he was, I could throw out the idea in a very flamboyant way that I would, and he was able to sit there and process it in a very linear way that he would think in, that engineering mind way of thinking, and then we could have a discussion. So, and some of the ideas is like,
No, yeah.
yeah, he'd just be, no. And I'd go, why not? And then he would go through his logical process as to why not. And I'd sit there and go, oh yeah, didn't think about that one.
Yep. Yeah, you need, if you don't have that person as your spouse in your life, you should have somebody in your life that does that for you
Oh,
and can help you put things in perspective at times and tell you you're off your rocker and it won't work. And sometimes you just say, well, I'm trying it anyways, but you at least have somebody that's kind of tamed you down and kind of shown you what might happen. And it's fun to prove them wrong and make it work.
but you'd have really good discussions that way, because I'd come up with this flamboyant idea. He would then be very logical in his approach to it and come up with his logical reasons as to why it would or wouldn't work. So he would have his pros and cons, and we would sit there and have discussions about it. And he would say, well, I see this problem coming out. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. And then, you give me a couple of minutes, and I was like, oh, but we could do it this way instead. And he'd go back to his logical thinking and go, yeah, we could.
Yeah.
So a lot, we didn't agree on everything, but we did have very active discussions about why it would or wouldn't work. And it helped me, as it was part of my process of, would I actually go and do this, or is it just an idea that I had that I need to flesh out to see whether or not it's going to work? And so sometimes it was just wanting to be heard. And some of the times it was sort of like, I'm really serious about this. And I think he could pick up on when I just wanted to flush an idea out, but I had no real interest in it, to when oh, she's serious about this one.
We're going down this path.
Yeah. But it's all part of living your best life now, is having that person, that sounding board. And it doesn't have to be a spouse. It could be a really dear friend. It could be a sibling. It could be a parent. But you want somebody who kind of has a like-minded thinking towards the plan B's, C's, and D's, and down the rest of the alphabet. And when you run out, starting with numbers, or double the letters up. So you can have AA, BB, and carry on. But if you ever get to Z on having a plan Z, then you need to talk with somebody.
Yeah.
If you start getting down that end of the alphabet, it's sort of like, okay, something's not working here.
Maybe you better reevaluate your decisions.
But you and I have plenty of friends who have done the plans A, B's, and C's, and then they finally found the one that worked for them.
Yep.
And they have just taken off. But it's the journey to get there that is always the fun part, even though at times it's very emotional, or it's sort of like, you're getting that like frustrated thing. But then you click with something, and that's it. You're off. And the lessons that you have learned along the way for those things that successfully did not work, now you found the one that does, and you're off and running.
And I love that you brought that up, because that's so true with side gigs. There are many people, and I usually recommend you start with something you're passionate about. If you love travel, look into a travel franchise, or look into starting a travel business. There are network marketing companies and affiliate marketing companies out there that are travel. If you love doing woodworking, start your own crafting business. Start doing bookshelves and plaques and stuff for people. I mean, there's so many. There's millions of opportunities out there for a side gig. And if you choose to go down the network marketing, direct sales, affiliate marketing space, and you come across one and you're really passionate about a product or something, and it doesn't work out, don't see it as a failure. Like Helen said, that's just one stepping stone to the next stepping stone to learn something new. I've seen so many people, their first one, they take off and they're super successful. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3. I've actually known people that it takes 5 or 6 different ones before the right community, the right compensation plan, the right product or service comes along, that everything just clicks. And it's also, like I said, the community, because sometimes you start here because you need to learn one lesson that you can't learn at the next one, and the next one gives you a different perspective, and then on to the third or the fourth. Hopefully it doesn't take you that long, but sometimes it's like reading a book. You love reading books, Helen. Have you ever read a book a second time and didn't learn something new?
I have read a ton of books, a lot of books. And whenever I read like a self-development book or a business book, a nonfiction book, I'm sitting there with Post-it notes, a pen, and a single colored highlighter, because every time I read that book, it's a different colored highlighter, and I can tell by the front, because inside the front cover, I'll put the different colored highlighters with the date I started. And so there's never been there's been books I've thrown across the room and gone back to later. The Magic of Thinking Big, for some reason, was one of those books that I threw across the room. And then I said to Brad one time, I said, I'm going upstairs. I am not coming out of my office until I have read this book cover to cover. And so I went and I picked it up from the corner of the room where it was sitting. And I didn't have any highlighters available at the time. So it was just a red ink pen. And I sat there for the next 4 hours and read the book cover to cover and learned so much during that time. And went downstairs. I said to Brad, I have no idea why I had a problem not reading that book. He's like, why not? I said, because I just read it and this is what I learned. Yeah. And I've read that book probably 3 or 4 times since then.
I mean,
even fiction books I go back and read multiple times, even if I know who did it at the end of the mystery.
But even watching a movie, I think about movies that I've seen that I love, and I see it the second, third, or fourth time, and I'm like, I didn't catch that the first time around. Like it's a part of the storyline or something. It's a time in your life when that is not important or it's not prominent. So you don't, you gloss over it. And then you come to a different phase in your life where it makes more sense. And it's like, oh, I didn't see that the first time. And that's
Or the
what
first 7 times, 8,
yeah,
9, 10,
well,
12 times.
that's true. So, you know, that's why I say everybody needs to have a plan B, C, D in order to live their best life because life is too short, as you know, Helen.
Absolutely.
And we want everyone to be able to enjoy the things that you want to enjoy in life. Everybody has different joys, whether it be their friends, their family, travel, whatever it might be. And we want you all that are watching to be able to live that best life and not have regrets when it's time for you to end this life here on earth. And you know, I love helping people to have that aha moment or that enlightening.
Well, my thing for living your best life now is at the end, I want to slide in and go, wow, what a ride.
Yep.
Well, Brenda, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening and away from Michael and the family to come and join us this evening and enlighten us on some of the ways that people can live their best life now with plans A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and the rest of them. If you would like to receive a free copy of the top 3 strategies to grow your business, go to the link top3strategies.com. It is in the description below, and you will get that. It's a really cool article, so please go download it, go read it. It's great. And we will see you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific time for, I don't know what. You'll have to tune in and find out because I haven't decided yet what we're talking about tomorrow. I'm a fly by the city of pants girl. I'm not much of a planner on some things. So they get to see it firsthand. And this is part of living my best life now, is helping people to live jeepers, I'm shaking the whole table and the whole RV's like going, Zeffy's like, what's going on? Earthquake? And that's part of my passion, is helping people to live their best life now. So if by bringing you guests that can inspire you or spark an idea for you to go and live your best life now, then my job is done. But I'll keep doing it anyway because there's always somebody else that comes along. So thank you again, Brenda. It has been awesome having you on tonight. And we will catch everybody else tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Pacific. Hey, konara.
Thanks.